I'm John Anthony, host of Detroit's Morning Answer and Black and White Radio. Amy Jacobson, host of Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft. She's somewhere in the building. I have no idea. But that song means it's time for the man of the hour. As Amy comes running. Oh, she's going to be out of breath. That sound means that the president of Wirepoints is now on the line. Amy, take it away.
Well, hello, Ted Dabrowski. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, John. Hope you guys are well.
Oh, that was so funny.
On Detroit.
That was so funny to see.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
To witness nothing.
Oh, no. All right, so guaranteed income has gone away, and to explain what that means, our good friend at WGN walks us through the program. Certain families in Illinois and in Cook County, $500 a month, John, to spend at their leisure.
I need to go back to Cook
County.
County.
I made a commitment to continuing this program beyond the pilot.
Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle on her promise to continue putting government, taxpayer-financed money into the hands of people, she says, who most need it. What was called the COVID-19 stimulus package, or the American Rescue Plan, passed in the pandemic to the tune of $1.9 trillion nationally, helping people who were out of work entirely or who had lost significant income. That money has now run out. Today, Preckwinkle says she has formed a group to explore keeping it going, but now with a different revenue stream. Each participant got $500 a month. 29-year-old Nikita Smith Jr. from Elk Grove Village says as supplemental income, that money helped him pay bills and establish credit.
For the first time, I could budget, make repairs on my car, and stay on top of bills. I never had that experience before. With the extra $500 a month, I could take the time to take on a role I knew was a better fit for me career-wise because I knew I had a safety net. Eventually, I became a manager in that new job, and I'm now on the path to working in healthcare, which has always been a goal of mine.
3,250 Cook County households received the funds, with 75% reporting feeling more financially secure. 56% reported reduced stress. 70% saw the program had a positive impact on their mental health. Participants reported the money went to household staples like food, rent, utilities, and transportation. Cook County Commissioner John Daly had good things to say about the federally funded program of the Biden years.
Stress, we all know, affects you mentally, but it also affects your physical health. And the fact that they were able to get relief on paying bills.
But just exactly where that money for the new program will come from is still unknown. What is likely, Preckwinkle says, it's not going to be coming from the Trump administration.
While there is uncertainty at the federal level, that's an understatement, we believe now more than ever that local governments have a responsibility to lead. Cook County is proud to be part of a national movement advocating for a guaranteed income through action, research, and the voices of our residents.
Okay, I mean, that sounds great. 70 or 56% reported reduced stress. I'd be less stressed too if I got free money, $500, and it's 75 or 94% experience of financial emergencies, such as your car breaking down.
Right.
And that average cost is anywhere from $300 to $500 when your car breaks down.
$500 in Cook County, that's nothing.
Well, no, it's something.
11% sales tax?
It's something. So the money ran out in January of 2025, just a few months ago. So, Ted Dabrowski, how are they going to get the money to keep this program going? Because as Tony Preckwinkle said, Queen Sugar, that the Biden administration is not going to be giving us any money.
Well, this is just like these all these different programs that Governor Pritzker has and Johnson has. This is money they hand out with that beautiful notion that they're helping people. And of course, if somebody gave me money, I'd feel more financially secure if they gave me free money and all that. But the problem is that there's so many of these programs now, and they're really like election campaigns. Mm-hmm. And in this case, they're helping 3,000 households with $500 a month. This was COVID money, right? This is temporary federal money, and they use that. She uses to her benefit. Preckwinkle does. So these are just all the different programs. We got tons of these, and they hurt the budget. They raise taxes. And in this case, you don't have to do anything. You just you don't have to work for it. You don't have to show need. You just have to be below a certain level of 250% of poverty, and you get money. And it's totally different from what Milton Friedman wanted, which was something where you have work requirements, and the more money you make, the less you get in benefit. So this is just another one of these big campaign spending things. It's not huge, right? It's $42 million, it's a lot of money, but it's not some billion-dollar program. But our budgets are riddled with all these kind of campaign. I call them campaign spending, but spending that purportedly helps people, but it's really signaling by these politicians.
Well, you don't think anybody from the private sector is going to come forward to continue this program, do you?
Yeah, right. No, she'll find money for the budget, because think about it. This is, a great way for her to signal that she's running again. She just announced.
Oh, that's right.
So, these kind of programs are popping up in many places like Evanston and Stockton, California. Detroit's tried one. Mm-hmm. But these are, I think, the wrong kind of programs. You got to have some kind of God that says, hey, people get free money. And, I don't know who that God should be, but it certainly shouldn't be a politician.
Well, in Detroit, they tried it with, I believe it was $1,500 or $1,200 a month for certain households. But it never made it through the city council, correct?
Yeah. No, it never. Yeah, Detroit hasn't passed one yet, right. But there's been quite a few. The hard thing is when you start thinking about it, if you want to give everybody free money, you're talking about a lot of money, right? You're talking massive amounts of money, and so I think we have to think about this thing too. It's like what can go wrong with something like this? If everybody here's another way to think about it. Some people want to use it to replace welfare and replace all the other different kinds of safety programs. But once you start handing out people free money, then you have to start thinking about, well, this person needs a little more free money because, they have some kind of a health issue. This other person has a disability, so they need a little bit more money. And so next thing you know, everything starts to look like welfare all over again.
Yeah, but Ted, it's designed for what it's created to do. It's all politics, because once the money runs out, guess who gets blamed? It's not the Democrats who created the policy. It's the Republicans, the mean old Donald Trump and the rest of the Republicans who ended the deal. Isn't that that's the intended consequence of creating stuff like this, correct?
Well, it certainly happens that way. Look, the Democrats have been using it to buy votes, right? And so the more programs you can have, the more you can take out of the budget to fund these kind of things. The more people you're buying. Republicans often come in to try to cut expenses and bring financial stability back, and then they get, of course, blamed for cutting things. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. So Governor Pritzker over the weekend had a conference, and he was screaming at people.
Really?
Yeah. When he gets
yeah.
Working with Democrats in the General Assembly, we've made Illinois the most LGBTQ plus friendly state in the country. We brought inclusive LGBTQ plus curriculum into our schools so that all students now learn about the contributions of queer and trans trailblazers. The State Board of Education is implementing gender inclusive policies to ensure that our schools are welcoming and affirming.
So it doesn't sound like he got the info on President Trump signing an EO on DEI and boys playing on girls' sports teams.
No, he's the biggest proponent of these policies that he supports. He and Johnson and others are going to keep doing things that fly in the face of Trump's orders. We see that happening in schools throughout the state, and so it's going to take a lot for Trump to have an impact in Illinois, because as we know, with like this homeschooling bill and all that, these Democratic leaders here want to keep pushing these policies that are just bad for kids, bad for families, and bad for Illinois. But they're still on it.
Well, Ted, this is one of the reasons why I helped build K-12 conservative Christian education schools throughout this country. When in your article, you highlighted these alarming statistics. 80% of black students and 73% of Hispanic students in Illinois are not proficient in reading. It's even worse in math. When you look at these figures, How do you interpret the emphasis by Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson on DEI, LGBTQ plus curricular? Do you believe this focus detracts from addressing core academic deficiencies?
Well, it absolutely does, because, I mean, listen, the reason I posted those videos of both Pritzker and Johnson is because they're obsessed about this stuff. And, when you obsess about the wrong things, right, when you have a different goal, then you forget the real goals. So the real goals are for these kids to learn how to read and do math, to critically think, to be resilient. And what they're pushing is the exact opposite of that. And, it takes all the focus away from teachers doing what's right, and they're focusing on these different curriculums, and it creates all these different fights. It's not productive. And you don't hear a single target. I've been looking around. I've been listening for any target where Pritzker says and Johnson says and Pedro Martinez at CPS, we are going to raise our reading standards to 50% of proficiency, and then to 75%. Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks about accountability on reading and math. They only talk about all these equity-driven outcomes, and that when you have that focus, you lose the real focus, and that's kids learning.
Yeah, but Ted, how do they not? It's out there plain as day for everybody to see where school choice is. It works. Scores rise. What is it about both of these administrations? They're not willing, because when you look at what happened with the what's the Invest in Kids Act, and now kids and parents are struggling because they were doing good in these schools and now they can't afford to go. How do they not see that where school reform is done? You look at Florida, you look at Texas. What is it about? Is it truly the issue, CTU and these teachers unions, who are stopping true progress in education in Chicago and Detroit?
Well, it's systemic, and people want to blame the unions, and Amy's right. Yes, CTU, for example, but you always have to go back and remember who gives the CTU all their powers. It's the legislature. Yeah. So it's the lawmakers. The lawmakers empower. The lawmakers feed the unions. The unions feed back the lawyers with votes. The unions feed back the lawmakers with votes, and then the media, benefits from all that spending that guys like Pritzker do on campaigns. And so it's the whole system that's complicit, and I argue that the parents, some parents, they know better. Some parents intuitively know something's not right, but it's Pritzker out there saying we have record graduation rates, and all that kind of stuff, and the media takes it and repeats it. The whole system is tragically broken, and if it wasn't for some media outlets like you guys telling the truth, nobody would know anything.
Yeah.
So media is a huge part of the problem, because people could challenge Pritzker and Johnson every single day if they wanted to in the media. Right. And they don't.
And you think about, you look at what's happening in education in Chicago, the state of Illinois. You look at what's happening in Detroit and other cities. And then about that drop in homicides, you guys had an article, Chicago's rate hasn't declined like New York City's and LA's. The city still has a homicide rate 5 times higher than New York and 3 times higher than Los Angeles. 2 cities that have way more people. Why do you think the Johnson administration is spinning mediocrity as success?
Well, that's all he's got. He doesn't have a plan on crime. He doesn't have a plan on education other than his DEI stuff. So he's just got to report what he can. And, when the crime rate, when I say the murder rates come down a bit, just because it's come down everywhere nationally, he's going to hop on it and pretend he's doing well. But he doesn't have a plan. The only plan he's got is to decriminalize, decarcerate, and hope he can get away with it. And, as the crime rate drops nationally, he does get away with it.
Okay.
And the media buys it.
Well, let's flip the script. What would, if you think about back in the New York Giuliani days, what would happen if Chicago copied New York's policing and prosecution policies from the Giuliani or the Bloomberg years? What kind of impact would that have on the homicide rate today?
Oh my goodness, I think it'd be phenomenal. I mean, all you have to do, and we provided kind of a 30-year chart on LA's crime rate, murder rate, and New York's murder rate, and it's amazing. The kind of drops. LA did the community policing. New York, the Giuliani broken windows policing, and they have dramatic drops in murder rate. And Chicago stayed way up higher. It never caught up, and we're just outliers now. But if we had the same murder rate as New York City right now, we would have 122 murders in a year, not 600 and 500.
Wow.
122 is the number of murders we'd have today if we had New York City's murder rate.
Wow.
And that should be the target.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. Johnson said his target is to get below 500 murders.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's just such mediocrity, right? We'd still be the highest in the country for total murders.
All right, speaking of Mayor Johnson, he's celebrating today with CTU president, his bestie friend. I heard they talk at least 5 times a day. Honestly, that's what I heard from my sources at City Hall. Because CTU, they ratified a new contract with 97% approval. It's historic because this is the first time in 15 years that they've avoided a strike. This is the first time in 15 years I'm not part of CPS. I can't believe it. I wanted them to strike. So how are we going to pay for all this? Like smaller class sizes, a nurse, a librarian in every school. What else are they getting? 4% increase for first-time teachers. So if a teacher's making $86,000 now, by 2027 they're going to be making 6 figures. I think it's $104,000 or $106,000.
Well, yeah, and I think the numbers are even higher than that, actually.
Yeah.
But
that's what they're telling us. You know, the first timers are making $86,000. So what do we get out of this?
Well, you get a bigger property tax bill for sure.
Is that the only way that they're going to pay for this?
Well, CPS is largely funded by property taxes and the amount that it gets from the state. So property taxes are going to go up, and that's just a reality. You're not going to get any better education. You're going to have a bigger and stronger union, wealthier union because you're going to get more union dues, and I think you'll end up just getting fewer kids in the classrooms. Unless more Latinos keep coming in from the border, but that's been stopped. So I think Chicago's just going to get back to its ways of CPS of losing students.
Hey.
Yeah,
Ted, we don't have that much time left, but you've discussed Illinois having a Doge. Now, see, I don't want Illinois just to have a Doge. I want it to have subpoena power. I want it to have the ability to do forensic audits and to have itself embedded, just like you see how Doge from the federal government is embedding themselves within these departments. How much of a game changer would that be if that happened here in Illinois?
Oh, it'd be massive. I mean, Wirepoints tries to do its little Doge stuff, right? Like others do. We try to expose where all the spending is and where all the money's going, but it's impossible because we're not partners with the government in looking at that. And the power that Trump has and Musk have is that they're working in partnership, and they're going in there and they're going and getting the data. They're going into the systems and downloading all the spending. We don't have any of those kind of powers here, and Pritzker would never allow it, and neither would Johnson. So it takes at some point whenever Chicagoans and Illinois wake up and vote for leaders that would allow that to happen. I mean, that's the power. I can tell you now. I know where the money, we can see where the money is. We can see where the money's grown in spending. We just don't have access to where it's, the details. We have some of that being reported, but not enough.
Wow. Ted, we got to leave it right there. Go ahead, real quick.
Just real quick, the spending's increased by billions in the last few years, and a lot of it's going into Medicaid, a lot of it's going into health services, and it needs to be looked at and checked.
Yeah. Ted, we got to leave it right there. He's the president of Wirepoints. Guys, if you haven't visited wirepoints.org, what's wrong with you? I get his text messages.
Wirepoints.org.
I get his text messages all the time. So I am reading your information, Ted. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Before we head out, though, I just want to say goodbye to the Michigan crowd. Thank you so much for joining us today. Amy, thank you so much for helping me get through this Chicago-Detroit simulcast.
D-Town. Love it.
We'll be right back.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock, all day, every day, including daily replays of Chicago's Morning